What would have happened to David Paich if Toto never existed? We asked him that question. It made him think. And we chat about David Paich being in the studio with Jim Messina and Kenny Loggins for the Loggins and Messina album Motherload. I'm John Beaudin from Rocky Street Music. I asked Bernie Ledden what would Hotel California have sounded like if you were in the band, if Joe hadn't come in. And he said, "Well, that's a cute question." But he said, and he kind of said a few more things. What would have happened to David Paich if there was no Toto?
Oh, geez. I would have probably tried to get a solo deal, which I had been offered. I had been offered by Louis Shelton, the producer of Seals and Crofts Records. When I met him, because my dad was a musical director on the Glenn Campbell show, Glenn Campbell Good Time Hour. And Louis was in the orchestra that my dad picked. And so I met Louis, and I would play every Sunday down on the Glenn Campbell show. I would play a little Hammond organ or a little piano on some of the cuts. And Louis, and I started playing some songs on the breaks. And Louis offered me a solo album deal to produce me. And my dad said, "No, you're not ready." So he says, "I'll let you know when you're ready." So I turned that down, and I waited till after Silk Degrees reached its peak. And then I made some demos. Me and Jeff made some demos. And again, if Toto hadn't happened, that would have probably been pounding the floors, pounding the streets, trying to sell songs, and get them recorded, or else do a solo record.
I think you would have done pretty damn good.
I don't know, man. I really cherish the vehicle that I had, and the fact that, and still have, because Toto's still out there playing, performing, opening for Journey, and doing really great in Europe and stuff. And I occasionally go out and play with them every once in a while. And I'm the musical director for Toto, which means I get to help rehearse the band and help in the day-to-day business administration that goes on. And again, Toto's been a full career, and it's just been very fulfilling and satisfying.
With Loggins and Messina, I've interviewed both those guys, and what was it like working with Jim Messina behind the controls? What was that like?
Jim Messina is a great engineer. I mean, he engineered the Buffalo Springfield records, the early one, and we went up to Jim. Michael, speaking to Michael Lombardi, and he recommended me for this job, so I thank him for that. And we went up to Jim Messina's Ojai Ranch and stayed for 2 weeks. And so everybody could live there, and we could rehearse all day long and get into intricate arrangements and stuff like that. But there's two very talented guys. Jim's a great guitarist, and Kenny is a great singer. You couldn't do any wrong with that band.
He comes up with. I've only talked to him once. It was a very long interview, and he was just sitting in his kitchen, and he comes up with these dates.
Yeah.
And when I was doing Today in History on my sister channel, someone gave me hell for looking at my notes. I'm going, it's Today in History, man. You got to look at your notes. It's dates.
Yeah.
This guy, just like that. By the way, you must have been a fan of, before we get to the album segment, a fan of Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding. I mean, the way that comes in.
Which one?
Elton's Love Lies Bleeding, Funeral for a Friend.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, that's a typical textbook example of where I'm at. You know what I mean? As far as that intro, where I think it was Albione, he kind of was inspired by to write that first piece, which is Funeral for a Friend. And then my friend Davey Johnston came up with the riff on Love Lies Bleeding. So that was such a great album. I remember when it came out, I just wore it out, the Yellow Brick Road album. Was there an Elton John release that you played on that you weren't credited on? Some fan wanted me to ask you that. I don't think so. I did only a couple things with Elton. There was a song called Nobody Wins, and I'm not sure which album that's on. But I also played on a B-side. He had a B-side that I played on, and I forget what the name was. It was called White something. White Lightning? No, that was a sing. That was I think that's the Fox you're thinking about. Nobody Wins, I think, was from the Fox. Oh, was it? Okay. Yeah. Well, I did this B-side anyway, and I'd been listening to Procol Harum on the way to the session. I was a huge fan and hugely influenced by Matthew Fisher with Procol Harum because I was supposed to play organ on this. So I immediately I went into this mode, and it was kind of churchy sounding. It sounded like a hymn with rock and roll beat to it. So I started playing a little Matthew Fisher-esque play in my church kind of playing. And Elton just stopped the tape and said, Hamburg, Procol Harum song. It just busted me right in the middle of it. It's got great ears, you know?
Forgotten Toys is the brand new EP from David Paich. It's a long time coming. He spent his whole life working with a whole bunch of musicians. We'll have links to the Toto website where you can pick it up in the description. Make sure you like our video. Keep in mind the entire first interview is online right now. We'll have a link to it. And keep looking back for links to the brand new interview in its entirety. We'll be having that up in the next couple of weeks. And there'll be a link in the description. Subscribe to our channel, share our videos, and comment. I'm John Beaudin. This is Rock History Music. Take care of yourself.